Citan Uzuki is a major supporting character in the game Xenogears. Citan was born as Hyuga Ricdiu, a second-class citizen in the flying country of Solaris. Despite the racist and xenophobic tendencies of his home country, Hyuga was accepted in the Union, a military academy. It was there that he met a number of other important characters in the game, including Jesse Black, Sigurd, and Karin Ramses. The group was known as the Elements. Jesse Black took leadership until his betrayal against Solaris. Following that, Hyuga and the others rallied behind Ramses, whom was on a fast track to high leadership. Eventually, Hyuga and Sigurd had come to the conclusion that Ramses, although not racist like the other Solarians, was just as dangerous. While Sigurd left Solaris completely, Hyuga was simply transferred and disappeared from Solaris for several years, taking up the name Citan Uzuki. Where he was and what he was doing differed wildly depending on whom you asked. Citan himself said that he had become disillusioned with Ramses' socio-political views. He abandoned Solaris in favor of a simple life on the surface. In the process, he took a wife from Shivat, an enemy of Solaris, and settled in the backwater Avith town of Lahan. If one were to ask the Gazel Ministry, Citan was one of their guardian angels. The Gazel believed that Citan was working for them with the task of either killing or guiding Faye into a trap deep inside of Solaris. However, both of these were false. Citan was actually working directly for Emperor Cain. Since Cain lacked the xenophobia and animosity of the Gazel, his goals were different. Cain had Citan observe Faye and determine if Faye would be a severe threat to the world as his predecessor Graf had been 500 years prior. Following the completion of his mission, Citan completely abandoned his ties to Solaris and faithfully joined Faye on his mission to free the world of Solaris' control. As a character, Citan had an inordinate amount of knowledge about how the world around him actually worked. He had a rather firm understanding of Solaris, meaning he knew that Cain and the Gazel to be the first humans of the planet, and he had some measure of understanding about the nature of Faye's power. However, he knew nothing about Deus or the purpose of humanity. During the course of the game, Citan takes on a sort of mentor-mentee relationship with Faye. He follows Faye during his journey, coaching him and guiding his morality to an extent. Due to his responsibility to Emperor Cain, Citan remains at the side of Faye even at times where it would seem inappropriate, such as when Citan joined Bart's desert pirates at Faye's side, leaving his wife and child behind. Like all supporting characters, Citan's significance to the story wanes during the second disc, the game. He takes on a more of a supportive role, never seizing command of the story the way he had repeatedly during the first half of the game. As a former member of the Elements, Citan is an extremely powerful fighter, likely the best out-of-gear fighter. His strength, HP, and speed are far above average, while his other stats are more average. He also has the ability to use healing magic, but it lacks any sort of offensive magic. While piloting a gear, his offensive strength is above average, while the rest of his stats are slightly lacking. Citan himself attributes this to his lack of piloting experience when he was younger. Out of combat, Citan is a highly intelligent man. Aside from his rather deep understanding of the major politics of the world, he is a medical doctor and a gifted mechanic. Citan's political understanding comes in handy several times during the game, where his knowledge is often the basis of the actions the cast of characters take. While Citan is often stated as being a doctor, he rarely demonstrates this skill. He operated a clinic in the cliffs above Lahan, servicing the town, but didn't seem to have traditional medical facilities. When he joins Bart's pirates, he leaves all the medical stuff to the Yggdrasil's own doctor. He does get a job in Kislevo's capital of Nortune tending to the prisoners, but he abandons his job at the first available chance. Later, he provides some first aid to Margie after she sustained a gunshot wound to the leg. Other than that, he refrains from doing any doctor work. As a mechanic, though, Citan shows his greatest skill. His home is full of gadgets he found and repaired. He also repeatedly performs repairs at Veltal until he joins Bart's Pirates, where he leaves the job to the Yggdrasil's mechanics. Later, he demonstrates his ability with machines when he is able to operate the computers aboard the Eldridge and the reflector dish mounted on the side of Babel Tower. As for my opinion of Citan, when I first played through the game, I didn't like him. He came across as a pain in the ass know-it-all. Though he was obviously intelligent, his sage advice seemed to lead to trouble more often than not. I just wished that he would go home and leave Faye to his misery. However, once the deeper aspects in his motivation of his character came out, I began to respect him more. By the end of the game, I felt he was a good complement to the rather complex set of relationships between the major characters. However, in terms of gameplay, Citan is the most glaring example of how the battle mechanics of the game are poorly balanced.